right, so it looks like I am in fact indeed live on the YouTube once again, and I just wanted to go on live quickly and just do a quick rant because I'm in the mood and I feel like it, which is basically the vast majority of the driving factor on what I do on YouTube. It's what I'm in the mood for and what I feel like because it is my YouTube channel. And I would recommend anyone else who maybe has their own idea or opinions about that, they could maybe start their own channel and do their own thing. So I wanted to go live to answer the question of why am I such a mean, harsh, critical, and judgmental asshole, which has been one of the major themes of my life so far in the 39 years that I've been on the planet thus far. I can think all the way back to being a little kid. I remember being a little kid and my neighbor's dad had two refrigerators full of alcohol, and we would be playing sports in that person's yard, and we would have to stop. So one of us would have to go get that person a beer. So I remember being a little kid saying, "Hey, that seems a little strange. That guy drinks a lot of alcohol." And I remember people telling me at that time, "You're so judgmental. You're so mean." And I'm like, okay, I thought I was just pointing out these things that were obvious. And then turns out some years later that family ended up being broken up because that person was a raging alcoholic, which funny me. So fast forward, 39 years later, I can say my life is pretty much repeating the same exact things, saying really basic, simple, obvious shit and having people being like, oh my God, you're so mean. You're so harsh. You're so judgmental. You're so critical. I'm like, I thought this was just like an obvious thing that we all knew. So, anyways, to answer the question without waffling on too much, I would say the number one reason that I've been able to discern, aside from my developmental disabilities and my mental retardation and all of the massive problems, psychological issues that I have, all the massive mental emotional imbalances, I would say the defining thing of why is that I feel personally bothered by dishonesty, deceit, uh, lies, untruth in really any manifestation. So if it's new age spiritual teachers saying things that aren't true, teaching things that aren't true, or charlatans like Montauk Chia putting out bullshit, fake stuff, I find it personally bothersome. Like it really bothers me. Maybe I'm an idiot, maybe I'm an asshole, but I find it really bothersome. Uh, and then even on a personal level, when people say things that are just patently not true, it bothers me. I've made videos critiquing modern therapeutic paradigm, right? That whole kind of therapy speak and this whole popular thing that's getting so widespread throughout our culture now. I made videos critiquing it and pointing out things about it, and people were like kind of taken aback and shocked because it's like, why would you do that? People don't do that. People don't criticize this. People don't criticize things because things hide behind these virtuous labels and these virtuous concepts and these slogans and these placards so that the actual rational, useful parts of our brain shut off and we kind of become idiots and just go along with whatever. When in actuality, that's when we should be using those parts of our brain. So anyway, circling back to my point, the reason why I made those videos and why I find those things bothersome is because it devalues the terms, because people that have real experience with trauma or real experience with being a victim or genuine experience with psychopaths, people using in these pop trivial ways for ways that aren't even accurate or remotely true devalues what they actually mean for the people that actually have experienced those things. And I find that personally bothersome because then it creates an environment, it creates a culture, an ecosystem where now these things are equal, which is kind of what people want. Everyone, they want this like stupid sense of equality, but it's like, I'll just use examples. I know people that were molested, raped, and abused for pretty much the majority of their childhood. And when they mentioned it and tried to speak out, they were literally smacked and punched in the face and told that they were, why could they say that? Okay, so I know people that have been through that, which is absolutely one of the worst, most horrible things a person could be with. You could call that trauma. You could call that being a victim. So then when I hear someone talk about how they're a traumatized victim because they were the best athlete in their school, I'm like, these things are not equal. But now because people are using the terms and the words and the mindsets in the way that they're using it, now these things are equal. And how I discovered that is when I would talk to these things about people, or talk to these concepts with people, like talk about CPTSD or PTSD or things like that, which again, I know people who have gone through legitimately horrible things. And personally, I've had my own experiences, which I won't get into. So then I would talk to people and say, oh, yeah, this, and this. They'd be like, oh, yeah, I have that too. Oh, yeah, I have PTSD. And I'm like looking at them and I'm like, well, everything in your life is fine. So what was the event that gave you PTSD? And they tell me something so trivial and so insignificant. And I'm like, okay, you were stressed, and okay, that was bothersome, but that's not the same. But in this paradigm, now it becomes the same. Something that was genuinely fucking horrible and terrible is now on the same level as an inconvenience. That's problematic to me. I find that to be extremely bothersome. Like on a visceral gut level, that bothers me. Maybe I'm a fucking retard, which I think I am, because my whole life everyone's like, oh, who cares? Don't worry about it. Just be nice, be kinder, be more considerate, soften your language, soften your tone, all these things. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even being harsh. Like, there's nothing diminutive or devaluative or insulting in any of my language. I'm just speaking using terms. Like, so it doesn't even make sense. So it's like mostly what people are saying is stop telling the truth, just lie, but lie like they lie. And then, so what I mean is, people will be like, oh, your videos are, what you're saying is true, but you should try to say it in all these other ways. And I'm like, I'm being as absolutely crystal clear, simplistic, straightforward, non-emotional, neutral as absolutely possible. So don't really know where to go from here. I mean, maybe be a stand-up comedian. That would be the best thing. Like maybe be like George Carlin or someone like that, or whatever. Like, yes. But mostly what people are saying is like, just lie. Like, that's really what it comes out. Just say things that are less true. And then people will be on board with it and people will like it. And it's like, okay, so like morally compromise. It's like, okay, sure. So I think this is just really what it comes down to, is just from a very young age, for whatever reason, I find this to be extremely bothersome. And I've made videos about this ad nauseum. So even within talking about Qigong or something, I say like visualization has no place or something. People get like, I can't tell you the people that were outraged by that trivial thing, or say Qi is this or Qi is that. But then why that's bothersome is because of what is actually true, which then this starts to get into this other area where basically what I've noticed people will eventually retreat to is this degree of relativism. Like, oh, well, that's just your opinion. That's just your experience. That's just your subjective, blah, blah, blah. So then the thing is like, if what I'm saying is automatically untrue because it's my subjective experience, then your opinion is self-defeating. Like, you just negated your own argument. Like, if I can't know what's true because it's just my subjective opinion, then you can't either. So then so then you can't know if what I'm saying is true. So then what are we even doing? So it's just like the whole thing's just self-defeating, but it's just drawing things into chaos. Because what I've noticed throughout my entire life is the profound aversion to anything remotely approaching what's true or real. And I've seen that in Christian church. I've seen that in spirituality, Tai Chi world, Neigong, Qigong, the health world, vegan, vegetarian, organic, paleo, keto, across every kind of demographic that I've jumped into. And I've been in a lot. Music, many art things, business, entrepreneur, like so many things. Like I've tried to experience a wide variety of human things, and even, sports, mainstream, normal, regular stuff. Like I've tried to just basically go through and have a diverse array of experiences. So I think that's really what it comes down to. And what I've realized is at this point is if you just say something that's remotely true, that's typically what people mean by you're being mean, harsh, critical, or judgmental, or an asshole. I can give you an example of a great one recently. There's this girl I used to be friends with. We dated briefly when I first moved to Portland. And basically, long story short, she's had this. Basically, I met her and I said, I don't think we should be together because you have this like predefined mental program that you're trying to fit me into. And I don't think that's a good basis for a relationship. I described it as like she's got this train that's already on train tracks, and I'm just like a passerby trying to kind of get on board. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. And then, so then I think 2 months after we broke up, she moved in with this guy and basically enacted the exact mental dynamics that she was trying to force into my relationship. So that proved my hypothesis to be true just from there. So basically, she's like left this guy multiple times. She left him, went and had sex with other guys, dated other guys, went back to him, left, had sex with other guys, dated him, came back to him. She's done this multiple times. So then I was talking to her again. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back to so and so guy," and because this has been an ongoing thing over like 7 years, I just said, how many times is that now? Or something like that, or like, how many times has it been, or what time is this? Something like that, because I just generally could not remember because it's been like 7 years and I hadn't talked to her in years. And then her response was, "Oh, I don't need your judgment. Oh, you're being so critical and harsh and mean. And what's your intention? Why are you saying this? Why are you asking? You could have said this. You should have said this. You should have said that." And I'm like, I was just asking because I haven't talked to you in like years. And I'm trying to place like, is this X that I think of as, and like how many times has this happened? Like just a basic logical question in the conversation. But the fact that her automatic response was, "Oh, you're mean, you're judgmental." I'm like, dude, it's literally the simplest, most benign question, like a logical progression in the conversation. Um, so there's that, and I could give you 100 examples of that exact same dynamic. So then I just eventually realized, oh yeah, that's what it is. And then, um, but what is that? It was like, oh, that's just true. Like I guess I just approximated or pointed out something that was actually true in reality, and that was so bothersome to this person, so caught up in their whatever. And I can actually use examples. I don't know if I've shared this in previous videos, but I can give you these examples from my personal life, from like three or four of my ex-girlfriends, which I can tell you that they all do not like me, and they think I'm mean, harsh, critical, and judgmental. Even though I can say for many of them, I massively improved their life. Their health improved significantly. Their financial career improved significantly. And I shared amazing high quality of life with them. Basically, they are just mad because I pointed out what was true. So basically, each of those dynamics ended because I calmly, non emotionally, non threatening, non everything, just said, here's what the dynamic I see is. And I think it's problematic for these um, reasons. Um, and I don't think this is going to make either of us happy. Like, what can we do? What should we do? Whatever. So basically, those all ended. And then in each of those three situations that I'm thinking of, the exact dynamic that I described that was present played out in their exact next relationship and the ones afterwards subsequently, like to a T. The exact dynamic that I described that was dysfunctional and not going to work for us. And they said I was mean for saying it, but they just kept doing it. So then I looked at it and said, oh, my hypothesis might have been accurate. Because at that time, I was still, this is like 2012-ish, 2013. I was still like, oh my God, people said that I was mean. That hurts my feelings. I don't want to be mean to people. So maybe they're right. But then I had a phase where I said, you know what? Let me just look and see. Like, am I being mean about this? Could I have changed my delivery? Is what I'm saying actually true? So then I actually realized, okay, I can I can soften my delivery. I can change my language. I can be more sensitive to timing and the person's emotional state for sure. And I also realized, yeah, everything I said was explicitly true. It's just they didn't want to hear it. They would rather persist in their own suffering and their own slamming their head into the wall than actually arrive at, oh, this is what's going on. And then here's how I can actually resolve it. So that happens. That was that exact dynamic, and I've had many dates that were like that as well. I was like, "Yeah, I think this is what's going on." They're like, "No, you're mean," and I'm like, "Okay, well," and then I look and observe over time, and that's exactly what played out. So, anyways, basically, long story short, I just have a real issue with people being deceived, people being conned. I have a issue with people lying, people being just straight up saying things that are not true. So, I think that's really what it comes down to. And it's just that's in a world which is founded on deceit and lies. I think that's a pretty conflict oriented personality type. Because it's like, I mean, that's the fabric of our society is deceit and lies, which is why, like, if that was not true, sociopaths and psychopaths would not excel in our society. But the fact is, they do. What makes them massively succeed and shoot up to the top of society? Being able to lie, deceive, basically not having a conscience. Because that's the define one of the defining characteristics of those types is they have no conscience. But they're usually highly intelligent, charismatic, and attractive and intelligent. So those combined with no conscience, recipe for massive success. So if that wasn't the currency of our culture, then those people would not be successful, but they are. So that kind of proves my point. Whether or not people want to admit it or realize it, yeah. Um, so yeah, just gonna go into some of the comments and people chatting in that I see here. Um, Barely enough focus on the solutions to the problems. So it looks like a guy being critical rather than a helpful guy. The thing is that I have tons of videos explicitly on solutions, but those get low views. No one watches them. No one likes them. So that's not on me. Firstly, or I guess secondly, if you don't actually acknowledge the problem and understand it, you will never arrive at a solution because the solution that you will arrive at will be wrong. So it's like you need to actually understand what's happening, why it's occurring, then you can arrive at the solution on your own. Also, I tend to assume that people are intelligent adults capable of making their own decisions. So the fact of the matter is that I don't know everyone's particular scenario. So I can't confidently say this is the solution. What I can confidently easily do is here's my view on a problem, here's why it occurs, here's what the issue is, here's how it manifests. So then a person can then take that and then basically apply that into their own lives and adapt it to their own scenario. So it's like there's that. The third aspect is people's attention spans are infinitesimally small. So if I'm going to make a video describing a problem and a solution, no one's going to watch it. If I just do the solution, no one's going to watch it. So then as a creator, what do you do? The average watch time on a video is like 2 minutes. And then getting back to a few recent videos were clickbaiting. I mean, yeah, obviously they were. Like, I'm trolling people. Like the fact that I had like half naked women in as the thumbnail for my videos, like I'm trolling. But this is the funny thing is all of those videos got better views and better click through. So don't tell me I shouldn't clickbait and I shouldn't troll people when that's actually what works. When if I don't troll people and I don't clickbait, people don't watch it. If I just like this is the thing is if I just do what people tell me, be nice, give people solutions, don't clickbait and don't troll. I do that and then no one listens, no one watches, no one cares. So it's like, okay, sure. And then I would just say, cool, if you know what to do, then you do it. You start a YouTube channel and you apply your ideals and your ideas and see if you get views and see if people watch it and see if people care. But no one's going to do that. So then why put forth, like, I would never do that. Um, so yeah, that's also why I just don't really listen to what people say. I mean, there was a lady I was talking to recently, and she stopped talking to me because I basically said she was trying to critique my video, and I was like, "Look, I don't care what you think." I'm like, "You're not a YouTuber. You're not a public speaker. You're not like you don't even understand what I'm doing. You saw 10 seconds of a clip based on someone you just met, and you're going to jump in and try to tell me what I should do." I'm like, "You don't know the background of stuff I've already done and tried in my experience, so you're not really in a position to comment on it. So like I'm not gonna listen. So like what so yeah. Um so yeah, obviously I was clickbaiting. And then the the Jonah Hill thing. Yeah, so honestly, this is what's funny about it is it's got like 900 views, right? Or whatever it is. That you are the first person to mention that Jonah was not mentioned in the video whatsoever. No one else even mentioned it. So partially why I did that is I had to take out that part of the video to cut the length down. And secondly, I thought it might be more of a hook so people will keep watching to see when I'm going to mention it. Second is if people look in the description for that video, I linked the articles about it that I was actually referencing in the video. Plus, he has a Netflix documentary. Plus, if you just look at the situation, and then use everything I said, you understand the situation more. So it's kind of implicit. So I kind of just assumed people could connect the dots, even though I didn't explicitly connect the dots in the video, because I kind of had to do that because of the time constraints for what that was. Um, yeah, so I'm just trying to go back through the chats to see if I'm covering things again. Um, Wouldn't that mean you were deceiving people in the thumbnail, but saying you dislike deception and lies? Um, I mean, I wouldn't call that deception. Like if if me using a girl in a bikini as a thumbnail in the video is deception, then like what is what Purdue Pharmaceutical did about the oxycodone thing? Is that also deception? I mean, they literally changed graphs and invented studies that never existed and then killed millions of people and caused millions of other people to become addicted to the most addictive substance on the planet, caused massive societal degradation. So I wouldn't say that putting a girl in a swimsuit as a thumbnail is deception and lies. Might need a different word for that, because that would be a kind of a thing. And then especially the Jonah Hill video. I mean, everything I said is related and based upon my um, basically everything I said in the Jonah Hill video was completely on board with that situation and was based on my response to the situation. I guess, well, the one, if saying something in 100% congruence for your ideal integral truth, I would just say, um, perhaps you should start a YouTube channel and try to get people to watch your videos and put forth your own ideals and then solve that moral quandary for yourself. Because it's definitely a good one. Um, but I don't think putting girls in swimsuits is is really out of alignment with that. I think for one, it's funny. Number two, it got more clicks. And number three, I think everything I said in the video is really attractive. To me, what I said in the video is as attractive as the girl in the bikini. Maybe that just shows how I'm weird. But I find knowledge and truth and exploration of concepts to be interesting and attractive. So I think that to me is on board. Also, the fact of the matter is it's fucking YouTube. It's literally a free video that is on the internet for people to watch. And the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of people are not going to watch it. And if they do watch it, they're going to watch about 2 minutes of it. And they're going to either survey it to see if it already confirms what they already believe, or they're going to say, this does not confirm what I already believe or I already think, feel, or know to be true. So I'm going to check out. That's 99% of what people are doing. And even the positive feedback that I've gotten from people, it's like, oh, I like your videos because it confirms what I'm already doing and what I'm already thinking, and it helps me do whatever. And I'm like, well, and then I ask, okay, well, what do you think? Tell me more. And then I realize it's not actually what I'm even saying or pointing at. Um, so I kind of have this uh, low grade apathy and disdain for for everything. Also, where what I realized over the years is just truly how little people actually listen, and how little people actually listen, which is fractionally small. But then from that amount they actually listen to what they actually understand, it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. And if that doesn't make sense, go out and test it. Go out and talk to people. Put out your ideas. Challenge people's existing ideas, and then basically see what is really coming back. Um, let's see. I think most people younger than me use fighting words when they're too wispy and pathetic to get in a real fight, and they all justify their nihilism in these awful, ooh, this is a good one, in these awful, laughable ways you're trying. Please tell me more. Please explain how I am justifying my nihilism in awful, laughable ways. It's very interesting. I think the assumption here, what they're trying to say is that I wouldn't say this in real life, or that I'm using fighting words or something. Um, Makeshift molder. It's always like like this is the thing, is like I'm a real person. You know my name, you know my company. I'm a real person. So I fully stand behind everything I say and do. And then basically you have people anonymously hiding behind screen names on the internet with no skin in the game, no investment, no risk, no nothing. And they feel emblazoned and emboldened to just say whatever. So it's like, just from that standpoint alone, how can anyone take any of that seriously? Um, it's quite funny. So yeah, it just kind of proves my point of how little people actually listen and understand versus how much they're just reacting off of their own preconceived notions and experiences, which just confirms what I'm saying to be true. So it's an awesome illustration of, hey, I want to prove you wrong, but actually my way of proving you wrong is just validating your original hypothesis. It's like, okay. Because I don't really consider myself nihilistic whatsoever. I consider myself actually quite optimistic, in terms of myself, my life, and my relationships and the people in them. It's just that's not really the focus of my YouTube channel. It's not a lifestyle channel. Um, it's mostly just me talking about ideas and trying to solve problems, because a lot of people have a lot of problems. And if you're going to try to solve problems, you have to look at the problems. Part of looking at problems is being critical. Part of being critical is I guess being nihilistic, because you're acknowledging and admitting that there are problems that need to be solved, which if that's nihilism, wow, it's again, maybe that's just another one of those things where the definition of words just keeps the bar keeps getting lowered and it keeps getting skewed and lower, where it's like, it's like I'm lying and deceiving people because my thumbnail doesn't 100% match the exact content of the video. It's okay, right? I think you might want to reassess um, ability to, yeah, interesting. So, anyways, makeshift molder, please expound and expand on uh, ways in which I am justifying my nihilism in these awful, laughable ways, or I'm trying. Clearly, I'm not succeeding in it, but I'm trying in a awful and laughable way to justify my nihilism. And I'm saying things that because I'm too pathetic to get in a real fight. like, I like how that's where it always goes. Like, okay. Uh, Soon they're gonna be like, say it to my face. Here's my address. Uh, okay, dude, this is high school. Anyways, can you tell me more about your experiences of astral projection? Did you really experience it? Do you still try it? Whatever info you can give would be great. Um, yeah. So that was many years ago. I'll tell you what I experienced, and you can tell me whether or not it's really experiencing astral projection. So I had the experience on many occasions of flying around the house that I lived in. Um, Sometimes it was like actual real time. Like I could, like it was when I lived with my parents, so I could see them in their bed. Because I remember one of the first times, especially it happened, I didn't know what it was. I never heard of it. Um, and I was like scared. So I was like, oh, I gotta go to my parents. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is not really real. There was that. And then there was a lot of times that where it started happening beforehand where I would get stuck in this like in between stage where you have some sense of your physical body, but you feel like you're getting pulled out of it. And that's very like disorienting because it's how it feels, but then you also hear all this weird stuff around you, like all these weird sounds and like things whizzing past you and people talking or people laughing or just some mixture of chaos. So that happened numerous times. And then it eventually got to the point to where I could kind of do it whenever I wanted to. I could basically sit and meditate for like not even meditate, but at that time was just like close my eyes and breathe and calm down. And then I could kind of like lay down and roll over and have that experience that would either lead to like some kind of crazy lucid dream situation where I could control the environment and the situation. And I could fly around and do all kinds of stuff. Or it would be like flying around my house or my neighborhood. So that was that. So you can tell me whether that's really experiencing or whatever that actually is, but that's what happened. I eventually just stopped because I it's kind of dumb. I don't at this point I don't think it really serves any purpose. I don't think it really does anything. Um, I don't think it's very useful. I just found it to be at that time kind of novel and cool. And it kind of iterated like, oh yeah, my awareness is not completely stuck to this form as I previously thought it was. Like it can take many different, it could take shapes. It can do different things independent of my body. Um, so it kind of once I got that, I kind of just moved on and realized there was more important things in my life to sort out, like actually being a functional person and functioning in society, not just not just like doing stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was pretty easy, and that was that. I think it was just yeah, I think that was that. So hopefully that makes sense. And basically, yeah, when you get in that middle area, it can be very scary. But you kind of just what I realized it's nothing more than just junk in your unconscious. How I knew that is one time I was listening to a bunch of Alan Watts lectures, and then the in-between stage that I was in, it was just an Alan Watts lecture. So then I realized, oh, it's just some part of my subconscious. Whereas another time before, I'd watched all these like alien documentaries and UFOs and stuff. So my in-between stage was like, oh, I'm afraid of aliens. So I feel like there's aliens around me. And then I eventually realized like none of this is actually real. It's just whatever junk happens to be in my unconscious. That's also why I'm just not really a fan of dreams and dream work and all that stuff in general. It's just kind of going in the wrong direction. It's just kind of like sorting through the recycle bin. Um, it's basically like if you're like, I'm trying to be a billionaire, and how I'm going to be a billionaire is I'm going to go out and like spend 20 years sorting through the garbage in the recycling bin. It's like, well, that's garbage. That's recycling. That's the wrong direction. They should be orienting. So I think that's about the usefulness of it. This is why I don't really think it's that helpful. Let's see. Major. I could be wrong, but it seems you're mostly critical of people who make mistakes you once made when you were new to Eastern thought herbalism, and you don't like seeing people waste their time. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I think it's just I wasted a lot of time. I wasted a lot of energy. I wasted a lot of money for sure. And I didn't get results. But I thought I was getting results, but the results were wrong. So it's just all these mistakes. So it's kind of like, yes, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and you can learn from my mistakes, but like here's why they're mistakes, here's why this occurred, and here's what's maybe off about this. Um, and then you can use that information to make a more informed decision as an adult. And then hopefully you can jump forward um, and maybe have more progress. But ultimately, like my main thing is I do actually want to help people. I do want to see people get helped. I do want to see people improve. And it bothers me when people don't, because the fact of the matter is most people don't. Like I have, like I've made so many videos over the last couple of years about therapy and whatever, because I've met so many people who've been doing it for so long and they're genuinely not better. They haven't improved, but they think they have, and their therapist tells them, and but they're not, and they're spending all this money, and they're going down this whole rabbit hole of fakeness and delusion and whatever. Which I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. I understand it's their life, it's their experience. It's we're all on our own path, and all these other things for sure, of course. Fine if they want to do it. Like I have no problem with it. I don't think it's good or bad, right or wrong, or they're a lesser person. It's not that. It's more so just like problem solving. Like, well, you're in pain. You're still in pain. You're maybe in more pain now. So like maybe try something else and maybe you'll have less. It's really that simple and straightforward. Um, I mean, I can give you a great example. I mean, I could give you a lot, but I can give you a great example of like I met a girl once on a first date, and she was saying how she had this terrible experience and it traumatized her, which I won't get into what that is because that's her personal experience. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, but then I did therapy, and the therapist said I was cured of it, and I think I'm fine." But I'm looking at this person and I'm talking to them, and their nervous system is just like just like fucking buzzing, right? And they're telling me how they're on some kind of like anti-anxiety medication, but it basically like doesn't do anything for them. They're like, yeah, basically all it does is it kind of just makes the low like not quite as bad, but then I also can't experience any of the highs or joys of life. And I'm just here thinking, you just told me you were cured, and your therapist told you you were cured, but now you're telling me that like you're not and you're on this medication, but you're so screwed up that the medication doesn't actually do anything. And I'm looking at your nervous system and it's not okay. It's not fine. So like I don't say anything because it's not my place, right? I'm just being polite, I'm being nice, I'm listening, whatever. So um the person is telling me this and they're telling me how their therapist says they're better and they believe that they're better, but they're not. But they're having this dysfunction in relationships. Like they just can't have a good monogamous relationship. So now they assume that the solution is polyamory. So now they have 5 boyfriends. So they're having sex with 5 different guys, you know, at the same time, not at the same time, but like, a different day during the week. And then those guys are having sex with each multiple other women, and then each of those other women are each having sex with multiple other guys. So then this one person is now having sex with 50 people concurrently all at the same time. And then I see them and they're still more buzzing. They're still more anxious, but they say they're better. Their therapist tells them they're better. And they're progressive because they're on this journey of self-exploration, and they're polyamorous and they're evolving and getting all their needs met and all this kind of shit. When the fact of the matter is, they're not better, they're worse. But everyone around them is confirming that they're better. So to me, that is bothersome because they're not better. They're worse, and they're going to get worse, and they're going to create worse problems, and they're going to keep creating more problems. So I can't tell you hundreds of people that I've met like that, hundreds over the last few years since I've been living in Portland. Hundreds of people like this. And this is why I say what I say and why I make the videos that I say and say the things that I say. It's because I see people. And then let's say I go to spiritual things, Neigong, Tai Chi, martial arts, meditation, alternative healing, and I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people doing the exact same thing, not getting better, getting actually worse, but thinking they're better. And then people telling them they're better, but they're getting worse. So let's say now we have thousands and thousands of people in all of these arenas not getting better and if actually getting worse. And I come along and say, hey, you're actually all getting worse. And here's why. Now I'm the asshole. Now everyone looks at me like I'm mean, critical, judgmental. I should be nice. I should be different. I should look at it this way. I should look at it that way. I should do all these other things. But somehow I'm the asshole. But all these other thousands of people and the people supporting it and cooperating with it and enabling it, they're all okay. But I'm the asshole. But I'm mean. So that's where I'm just like, okay, guys, what world am I living in? Like, is this a joke? Is this like punked? Is Ashton Kutcher gonna jump out and be like, gotcha? Like, what fucking simulation is this, dude? Uh, So that's why I say the things and make the videos, because it's meet so many people. And yes, I understand there are exceptions, obviously. I meet people who like, yeah, I was going through this patch and then I did therapy and they helped me sort some stuff out and get clarity and now I'm good. I'm like, sweet, amazing, for sure. I'm so glad that would sorted you out. Like, good. But it just doesn't seem to be the case. And then when I meet acupuncturists, naturopathic doctors, healers, energy healers, psychics, mediums, intuitives, qigong teachers, neigong teachers, tai chi teachers, therapists, mental health workers, mental health professionals, counselors, all these people. I meet hundreds of people across these demographics and see they're also out to lunch. They're also not really producing the results that they claim to be producing. So when I'm looking at it from all these different contexts and data points and people and situations, they're all okay because they're putting forth things that are not true, but they're doing it behind a label of virtue or being nice or trying to be good, which is like the road to hell was paved with good intentions. I guess people forgot that thing. But again, I'm the jerk for pointing out that like A plus B is not equaling C over here. So that's what I don't get. That's what's continually confusing. And I don't really do it anymore so much because of that's just the world that we live in. So that's that. So anyways, I just wanted to provide that context because people are like, oh, you're just focusing on the problem, or you're just being this, or you're just being that. And it's like, well, if you're not aware of the problem, maybe you need to be aware of it first, and then maybe you can solve it. So yeah. Anyways. Would you be open to the concept that DNA and dreams are interconnected and as a result of cellular memory coupled with other psychological factors, but an emphasis on cellular memory? No. I mean, it's just the mental tension, anxiety, complexity, and self-justification. It's people want something to be true, so then they have to make it sound like it's all these different things. How I know, okay, so I'll explain why I think that and why I say that. Maybe you can understand. So I'm basing what I say on what I think are actual legitimate sources of truth and found, I would say, just truth in the world. So legitimate actual traditions, religious traditions, let's just say Taoism or Buddhism, for example, which the tradition is not even really relevant. And actually, when people are at high levels, traditions don't fucking matter at all. It's only for lower stages that shit is even relevant. But in my opinion, these relics are the things that really wise people left behind, people who actually were at a capacity to actually perceive truth in a real way, and then we're just left with the trimmings. So that's kind of what I'm basing things on, and my experience with those things in a real tangible way inside of doing those traditions and the practices and whatever, and the people within them, and many people that actually have these high level skill. So based in all of that, there's a certain point that a person reaches where they no longer dream. They no longer dream, and they no longer have any mental activity for the most part. Meaning, if you put them alone in a room, their brain just goes, because what the brain is ultimately just a problem solving apparatus. If you're not creating problems to solve, it shuts off. But the fact of the matter is, we're all so tense and so wound up that we're constantly creating problems. So the brain's constantly running, trying to solve problems, creating new problems, solve those problems, create new problems. Just it's constantly running. The fact of the matter is, it's just a problem solving device. So what happens is, at a certain level, this person completely, let's just say, use the metaphor of completely clears off all the cachet. They empty the recycle bin. So there's no more mental activity. So when they go to sleep, they don't dream because there's nothing for the brain to try to recycle or sort or process. They have none, no dreams. So then that from that capacity, we can see what the actual function of that thing is and realize I'm functioning in a pretty low state because I still have to dream. My brain still works in all of these ways. That's where we're all at. So that's what we're trying to judge reality off of, but we're trying to make it into something higher, and it isn't. It's like taking a shit. It's like, is taking a shit like intergenerational evolutionary? Like, no, it's literally just taking a shit. Like, that's it. Things go in, your body can't use it, it eliminates it, things go out. That's all it is. Where people try to do the same thing with sex. Oh, it's a sacred spiritual act. It's all of these things. No, it's literally just reproduction. Like, it's mammalian, low fight or flight response, base as you can get. That's all it is. But people are like, oh, well, it has to be something more. No, no, no. We are just at a low level of functioning. There are other levels of functioning. There are other things, but those are different. We are not that. They are not the same. So that's why I don't think dreams are anything more than other than just recycling and processing. That's it. People will put all this other stuff on there because they have that level of mental tension and anxiety, and it makes them feel better. It gives them a better sense of self. That's literally all that it is. And cellular memory is not really a thing, and DNA and all these things, it's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with anything. The thing is like, we don't understand. Our paradigm is broken. Our modern paradigm is like a joke to me personally. I think it's laughable. And that's being mean. That's me being mean. I understand. So I apologize, but I'll be honest and say that I know that I'm being mean about that. But that's my honest opinion, which is why I quit college, because I was like, this is a joke. This is like, look, my finger puts in my nose. Look, my finger fits in my ear. Isn't that amazing? And it's like, I guess, yeah. Which is why I think the Big Bang versus creationism, which is like, that's the biggest argument in our paradigm, really. It's like the most profound thing. To me, it's profoundly trivial. And the fact that people don't see that fundamentally creationism and Big Bang are like the same exact thing, something we don't know and we can't define and we can't understand, did something that we don't know, we don't understand, and we can't define. Same exact thing. Like, it's not different. But the fact that our whole paradigm has spent hundreds of years going from here over to here, it's like just the ultimate hamster wheel. Meanwhile, all these other productive things we could have done are just not even acknowledged. Anyways, um, have you looked into Neil Howe's generational theory? Like I said, I don't really care about these kinds of theories. I don't think they're really relevant or useful. I'm sure they contain elements of truth, of course. I'm not saying they're completely false, but I just don't see what it really purpose it serves. Like, obviously, we inherit things from the generation before us. Obviously, things are passed down through our lineage. Like, I don't need someone to explain that. That's kind of obvious. Why do you need a theory to tell you something that you can already figure out for yourself? Um, like, we're a mix of nature and nurture for sure. Um, like, we inherit things from all over. There's the whole model within Chinese medicine of like the different souls or spirits. It's basically talking about all these different aspects that we pull from, like some from the animal world, some from this world, some from this generation, some from our parents, some from our previous incarnations. All these different things pulled together and mixed, and that's what's coming together to form who we are right now. So it's like this stuff's been figured out a long time ago, by people who are much more intelligent than probably anyone that's alive now, because we're in a low state and in humanity on the planet. Um, oh, crisis and awakening cycling. Let me see. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's familiar, if like the or related to like the fourth turning, like that whole idea. Um, but I'll look it up. But I don't think. Let me see. Oh, I see. I mean, yeah, that would definitely make sense. Yeah, it would make sense. I mean, it makes sense to me that things go in cycle because things have always gone in cycle. Again, this has been known for a very long time. For example, like China right now is doing what they're doing, right? But basically, China has been around for so long. They've gone through every iteration that a human society can go through in their fucking 8,000 years or however long that well, it's not even one culture, but basically whatever we call that has been they've gone through all of it. Um, so it's like whatever we're seeing now is not anything new. The thing is like what I try to drive home in videos and why I say the things that I say is that we as humans are not very different. The only thing that's different now is we have like toys and devices and gimmicks. That's the only thing that's really changed that much. Mostly everything else is pretty much the same as it has been for a long time. Like our creature comforts are different and our screens are different. Like if you look at the progress of like the screen and the computer and these different things have gone up exponentially, but most everything else is not really that much different. Like we are at a low point of humanity. Like things are have gotten worse and will continue to get worse for a while. That's not my opinion. That's just based on the yuga and that whole idea. And basically that's just the cycle that we're in. We're going to see more and more people lose grasp with reality. We're going to see more and more people get their nervous systems completely fried. We're going to see more people just having complete breakdowns, which we already are. If you just look at all these videos that keep coming out of people in airports just having an insane meltdown and like going around and destroying everything and everyone's just standing around watching, like that stuff is just getting increased more and more, and it's going to keep happening. It's going to get worse, which is why I would say most of what I've been putting out has changed to try to get ahead of some of this, to try to reorient people, come back to reality, Come back to what's real. Start recognizing what's false. Start developing your ability to think critically and problem solve. Like, start getting these parts of your brain activated, because that's what's going away. And again, that's not what people actually want to hear. That's not what they actually are interested in, because they want to say, oh my God, TikTok. Oh my God, the new thing. Oh my God, this theory. Oh my God, that theory. This new idea, this new idea, this new theory, this new trend, this new supplement, this new biohacking thing, blah, 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 blah. Novelty, novelty, novelty. And it's like, yeah, you're going to keep following stimulation. You're going to keep following your nervous system getting ramped up. You're going to keep following your fight or flight response. And that's the exact mechanism that's going to lead to your nervous system melting down, which is that's how things are shifting towards anyways, is like, let's have your nervous system fucking melt down. So I'm saying, hey, here's another way. Here's an alternative, which is funny. I've been saying this again for like 15 years. It's amazing how homogenous the alternative world is. It's amazing how little interest the alternative world has in actual alternatives. They just want to follow another thing that will stimulate their fight or flight response in their nervous system. When in actuality, that's the thing that's causing the problem in the first place. Whether you like Coke or whether you like Pepsi, you're addicted to fake sugar nonsense. But you're like, well, no, I like Pepsi, so I'm alternative. No, it's not alternative. Drinking neither, that's an alternative. Drinking a completely different beverage altogether, that might be an actual alternative. But even in the alternative world, it's mostly just Coke or Pepsi. That's it. That's been my shock and my disappointment over the last 30 years of my life, is how little interest people have in actual alternatives. Anyways, so let me get back to, that was a bit of a tangent. How do I feel about the current state of feminine energy? I mean, that's a broad stroke within a broad stroke. And that's obviously also a politically motivated, or not motivated, politically charged sort of endeavor to get into. I would say masculine and feminine are both equally perverted and distorted at this point in time. It's hard to say which one is worse, because they're both pretty far down the rabbit hole of delusion. But also too, I mean, there's still plenty of good people in the world, plenty of good examples of these things. It's just a matter of cultivating them within yourself, and then being able to find other people to connect with on the same thing. But I mean, I have problem when people try to blame women, and I have problem when people try to blame men, because this is what I learned and realized. If you go to women and you say, why are you like this? I'm like this because of men. If you say, men, why are you like this? I'm like this because of women. So who's really to blame? Ultimately, they're just blaming each other. And ultimately, what it comes down to the vast majority of the time is just self-responsibility, being responsible for our own choices, our own actions, our own behaviors, which is why when I made videos critiquing online dating or whatever, it's ultimately what I say is like, yeah, you can blame society, you can blame culture, you can blame the other gender, you can blame all these other things for sure. There's definitely truth to it. But ultimately, none of that's going to like change your life. Ultimately, the only thing that's going to change your life is acknowledging your own self and making different decisions. That's it. That's just practicality. Of course, there's societal problems. Of course, there's societal dynamics that are problematic. So it's like, on one hand, I could blame men for being such simpletons and allowing women to get away with such terrible behavior. But then I talk to the women and I realize, wow, they're just doing that because of this. And then the men are just doing it because of this. And it just goes back and forth and back and forth. Like, for example, I mean, you could blame, you look at OnlyFans and all these ladies making millions and millions of dollars on OnlyFans and be like, ugh, they're so disgusting. They're just thoughts. They're sluts. They're disgusting. Da, 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 da. You can have all these like moralistic things, which I don't personally care. I don't participate in it, but ultimately it's just supply and demand. Are they to blame, or are the millions of people paying them money and enabling their behavior, are they to blame? It becomes a more complicated kind of scenario. Or is society to blame because of alienating men or telling men that they should be different. Da, 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 da. So it's basically like, how far back the blame chain do you want to go? You could do that game forever, but ultimately you have to just look at, I mean, ultimately you have to sort out your own shit. Is kind of what it comes back to. So yeah, but I mean, I definitely have plenty of stories of dealing with crazy women, and I have plenty of stories of dealing with crazy, ridiculous, stupid men too. So it's like, obviously in a different context, but yeah. And I think I made a video about the men going their own way, red pill, and feminism. I made this years ago, and I basically just said, if you break this down, both people are just in pain, they're hurting, and they're just using these societal things to mask whatever that thing is. But ultimately, they're doing the same thing. Of course, that was a boring video. No one liked it. So let's see. What would you say? Would you say your ideals align with existentialism? If not, what would be the name for it? Thank you for a response. I have no idea. I haven't studied existentialism in enough detail. I would say probably not. I don't really like much of anything from Western philosophy. I never did. That's kind of why I stopped studying it in school and why I quit, because I thought it was quite boring. These really simple, ridiculous ideas that are just start endlessly analyzing for years. I'm just like, you guys are so dreadful. I don't think I could actually be categorized or put into a box. I think that's unfortunately the place that I've worked myself into. There's a certain degree of mental development and flexibility that where you're not actually in a box. I don't really know how to do that. So yeah. Hey, Matt, the vegan. How's it going? Brianna Marriott. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Good question. Happy to answer. At roughly what age do you think someone should be an adult ideally? Like, I mean, to be honest with you, I've met children that are adults and I've met adults that are children. And then what does an adult even mean? Shit, I don't even know. I would say it's some of the characteristics would include being able to actually self-reflect, self-analyze, self-correct, being able to look at situations and ideas from a variety of viewpoints, not being chained to a particular ideology or ism, being able to look at situations from a less emotionally biased place. I would say those are characteristics, in my opinion, of being an adult. Other people might have a different definition, but for me, I think those are pretty adult things. But I don't meet a lot of people that can actually do those things. I meet a lot of people that are here, or they're like fuck it all, so they're over here. That's about so that's. But then when you meet people, the thing is, like, for most people when I meet them, after a few short minutes, I can pretty much predict their behavior, their beliefs, and their thoughts just from a few things. It's not because I'm special or smart. It's just because people are that predictable. It's not that difficult. Just a certain baseline degree of mental clarity and being organized with thoughts and realizing basic causation chains. What kind of music do you like? I actually don't really like music. I don't really listen to music anymore. I stopped 2019. I think I just quit. I was like going to do a meditation retreat, and part of the preparation was just like stopping as much as possible all stimulation, entertainment. So I just stopped music and I just lost the appetite for it. I think it's kind of annoying now. I don't really like it. Partially because I don't really stimulate my emotions that much. It's not really part of myself that I like get into that much. I actually do have girls that are friends in my life. Those definitely stimulate my emotions. But the fact of the matter is, it's not my interest. I'm trying to practice Neigong and meditation and qigong and tai chi and cultivation, and emotions have absolutely nothing to do with any of those things. Emotions have a zero role in actual spiritual cultivations. Emotions are not a part of it at all. Emotions are not a part of self-cultivation. They're not a part of qigong. They're not a part of neigong. They're not a part of tai chi. They have really no emphasis or importance within any of those disciplines or practices. So hence, I don't really emphasize that part of my nature, because that's where disease is. That's where most people's diseases are, is through those emotional fixations and that chronic emotional biochemical stimulation. I know that sounds weird for people to hear, because that's where everyone lives. So they would automatically assume I don't have emotions or feelings, but I actually do. I have plenty, I have a lot, and I have a richness of life. It's just not based in temporary, like, emotional ups and downs. It's kind of a different quality of awareness. It's funny. It's a weird thing. Like, the less emotions I have, the more I actually enjoy life. I enjoy life and simple things way, way, way more. And I require a lot less stimulation than I used to. So it's like, by having less emotions, I require less stimulation, and I'm able to have more enjoyment from more simple things. And I feel better and I feel healthier. So to me, that kind of confirms everything I'm saying to be true. But what people do is the opposite. I'm going to do spirituality, so I'm going to really get into my emotions. I'm going to self-develop and cultivate, so I'm going to get into my emotions. I'm going to do qigong or meditation, so I'm going to stimulate my emotions. It's like, well, no, you were already stimulating your emotions, so now you're just doing more of it, but it's different. So yeah, so that's kind of why I don't really care for music. I also don't really like most movies, don't really like much TV, don't really care for much entertainment in general. Sometimes, occasionally, yes. But honestly, most shows, most TV shows, most movies, I can predict it within a couple of minutes. Oh, this is what's going to happen. And sometimes I did that for a while. I would watch a series just to see if my original assessment was correct. Like, okay, I watched an episode or two. This is what I think is going to happen. And then I just watch it like, yep, that's what happened. Or no, that didn't happen. Wow, that was interesting. But that's just kind of how it goes. And I think people don't really realize, like, how much being so involved in their emotions is actually working to their detriment. People think they're empowered because they're in their emotions. Actually, you're more easily manipulated and coerced because you're in your emotions. Because that's what coercion is. It's manipulating emotions. Like, people think I'm more free because I'm in my emotions. No, you're less free. You're more robotic. You're more chained. You're more predictable. You're more easily classified. That's just the fact of the matter. So it's like all these, I get in the conspiracy world, they want to not be controlled. They want to be free. They want to be sovereign. They want to be free man on the land. They want to be all these things. They have all these ideals. And then they're just massively caught up in their stimulation. So they're less free, but they just happen to be stimulated from different things than is on the normal TV shows. So it's like, well, you're not doing all of the things you're striving for, you're doing the exact opposite. You're not free. You're more enslaved. But that's honestly, that's just normal life. Normal life is basically develop some very simple identity, have some basic emotional experiences, and then form everything around that and just spend the rest of your life building and validating that. That's just normal. That's just basic normal life. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying I'm failing miserably, but I'm trying to do something a little bit different, which is why everything I'm saying to people probably sounds so stupid or ridiculous or off the wall or whatever. So yeah. Also too, like, if you're not trying to cultivate, like, listen to music, watch movies, enjoy your life, be overstimulated, do all these things. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be like what I'm saying. It's fine. Just maybe have some awareness about it and pay attention to your nervous system. And if you're having problems, or you do have problems, then you might be able to know where it's coming from. That's it. So yeah, I don't really care for music or movies or really any of that stuff. If you addressed this already, astral traveling and stuff. Yeah, I already talked about that. Sorry, I'm not going to repeat it. You can go go back and rewatch it. Um, how important is reading? Could that be a form of overstimulation? I mean, I'd say it would just depend. Obviously, reading is extremely useful. I mean, we all do it. I'm doing it right now. I'm reading this, and I read stuff online. I'm reading emails. I'm doing work. All these things. Um, so just kind of the thing is, again, I always just say things and put out information because I assume that people are adults and they can adapt it to themselves and realize this is for me, this is useful, or no, this is not really useful for me, or I can do something differently, right? So, I mean, obviously, if you're a student, reading is important. If you're trying to be more intelligent, reading can be important. If you're trying to learn, reading can be important. But it also could just be like another form of mental masturbation. So, kind of just depends on kind of what you want to do, what your goals are, and what your life is, where your life is at. Everybody is flying high off of all kinds of Kool-Aid. So now the practical seems too simple to be the real truth. Yeah, basically. Um, yeah, I mean that's the thing is like people are so emotionally stimulated and manipulated, right? But and they think it makes them empowered. They think their political beliefs or ideologies make them empowered, but it actually is the opposite. So I can give you a story. I can give you an example, right? Where I went on a date with this girl years and years ago who I would say was a really just terrible human being, awful. And we probably disagreed on everything. Super left wing, super feminist, super misandrist, meaning she hated men. Um, like the opposite of anything I really believe or choose the way that I live my life. But she wanted to sleep with me. She wanted to hang out with me. She liked me. Why? I knew what she thought, felt, and believed, so I just went along with it. Oh, really? I have privilege? Tell me more. Oh, what should I do with my privilege? Oh, wow. I never thought of that. Oh, wow, that makes so much sense. Just validate her ridiculous ideals, which I completely disagreed with and thought they were completely incorrect. Just slightly agree with them. She's like, "Oh my god, you're a great person." Da, 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 da. So what I'm saying is like she had all this emotional energy behind these ridiculous ideals, and she felt very strong, very empowered. And everyone would probably agree that that makes her a strong, empowered person. But all it did was make her really easy to be manipulated because all you do is you validate this thing, and then behind it is all this emotional energy. So now you just activated all that emotional energy. And they assume, oh, you're like me, you believe, think, feel like me, and it's just all this crap. Obviously, it's fake and it's based in falsehood and it's gonna crash and burn. Yeah, exactly. The Barbie movie. um, but it's just an example. But I'm just saying, in another instance, I could go to a party like, oh, I'm going to go to a party in Portland, so it's probably going to be like left wing people and whatever. So I'll just learn to say, I won't lie, but I'll learn to say things that are more general that sound like I agree with them. And what do you know? They'll like me. They'll think I'm great. This is really all it takes. But do they know me as a person? No. Do they even see me as a person? No. Do they subtly pick up on the fact that I'm not really agreeing? I'm just not lying and not disagreeing? No, not at all. Because the vast majority of the time, they don't actually care. They're not interested. They don't want to see you as a person. They don't want to connect with you as a person. They're not even in the human realm. They're in an abstract, mental, masturbatory, emotionally charged experience, but they think that makes them more empowered and modern, but it's actually the opposite. So I'm just saying, it's just examples. And the thing is like that's what psychopaths and sociopaths and manipulative people use to harm people. They find these are this person's drivers and mechanisms, and they understand people enough because they're just happen to be intelligent, more intelligent enough than that person. So they're able to just manipulate it and control them to ridiculous degrees. cult leaders do the same, how they get people to do like the craziest shit that they would never do. But that's it. That's all it takes. So this is what I've been telling people for like 15 years, saying the same shit. You're doing all this stuff. You think it makes you real cool and empowered, but it's just actually doing the opposite. So I feel like every video is me just repeating the same thing for the last 15 years. Have I heard about the term mass formation explained by Matthias Desmet? I definitely have not, because I am an idiot and I don't keep up with anything at all. If it's like the mass formation psychosis, okay, I did hear that thing with about like COVID and all that. Yeah, I think that's already been a thing for a while, and it's definitely only going to get worse, unfortunately. But yeah, the Barbie movie is fucking terrible. Massive like social engineering. But anyways, this is way longer than I intended it to be. I just was going to pop on for like 5 minutes and rant, but here we are. So yeah. But basically, last thing I'll say is I am just pretty sore and tired right now. And like, I think I'm just doing this live because I was annoyed and a little bit emotionally stimulated because I was talking to a friend of mine who had been through a pretty like genuine trauma, genuine abuse, genuine horrible things. And we were both discussing our frustration with how people were misusing all of these words. And like, oh, because the thing is like, I'll be on online dating and talk to girls, like, oh, my ex was a sociopath, my ex was a psychopath, my ex was a narcissist, which immediately I'm like, okay, we're done. Like, you're not a person I want to deal with. But it's like, wow, hundreds of these women are just meeting hundreds and hundreds of these other guys, and they're all psychopaths and sociopaths and narcissists, which it's like, that's not what those words mean. And that's not even the way, because when I talk to them, like, oh, what do you mean? It's like, oh, well, they didn't let me emotionally coerce them, or they didn't let me do my thing. It's like, the simplest way I could put it is, you're so selfish for not giving me what I want. That's ultimately what a lot of people mean, I think. How dare you not give me what I want? You're so selfish. That's really what it breaks down to, right? So then I've met hundreds and hundreds of people that use these terms in these ways. You go on TikTok, Instagram, fucking the internet, whatever. But then I had know people that really have been through horrible shit. And they're frustrated because they just get kind of like pushed aside, right? Just, oh yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, I have that stuff too. Oh yeah, I've been through that. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, this person struggles to like function. Like, they have real problems. So to me, that pisses me off when people do that. So I was feeling kind of annoyed and emotionally stimulated from that. So that's kind of why I popped on here, because I started thinking like, why am I so fucking bothered by this stuff? Because a lot of my videos and stuff over the years has had this kind of like undercurrent of anger and frustration. And I realized, well, that's partially why, because it's devaluing things and diminishing things, and it's just not true. And the more things are not true and things are misused, it's the less things have value and meaning over time, which I have a problem with, which is bothersome to me. So that's kind of, then I was like, yeah, I think this does actually explain a lot of the driver for what, and also the driver for what actually motivates me in my life, which is it true? Does it work? Because ultimately I still really care. I just ultimately care about results, which is why, according to the one, I have an atheoretical stance, because it refers to not adhering to a specific ism. because my thing is I care about the results. Like if socialism and communism produced amazing results throughout history, then I would be a fan. But the fact is they haven't. They've done the opposite. So it's like, I just really care about what is actually true and functional and real. That's it. And I'll pick and choose that from wherever. I think that's really all I care about. And then, yeah, trying to have a positive impact, trying to help people, and basically have a net positive impact. So let's see. Major says, I see a lot of mental illness, hypochondria, where people are mentally damaged in a lot of ways, but they self-diagnose and have a misguided therapist misdiagnose them. That's why I said in that Jonah Hill video, I think I said it was the blind leading the blind, because these therapists themselves are usually only getting into it because they themselves have some problems they're trying to solve. So it's literally the blind leading the blind. And the fact of the matter is they don't have typically, of course there's exceptions, of course I'm not saying all, but typically they don't have genuine wisdom, genuine insight, because you don't get that from a 4-year degree. You don't get that from an internship. You don't get that from learning critical race theory and the patriarchy and all this like social justice warrior, politically motivated crap. You don't actually get it from that. You get that from life. You actually have it or you don't. It's a learned characteristic. So yeah, that's definitely, I think, part of it. So it just really is creating a snowball effect. And the thing is, like, I don't think people realize it, and I don't think people realize how the long-term consequences, right? It's just, again, people do things in the short term, but don't consider how it's going to play out over the long term. And I can give you 2 great examples. The easiest and the most basic one is why I typically have never had like a one night stand or like a hookup, right? Because I learned at a very young age that, number one, it was never free and it was never casual regardless. There's always some price to pay, whether it's financial or your time or your energy or emotionally or STDs or kids or whatever. Like there's some tax that's going to be paid at some point. It's just a matter of when and to who. So I realized that early on, and that was kind of a like a motivating factor to not do it, right? Not a determining factor, but like a putting off factor. So I realized that. The second is that I could look at it and look at the situation and zoom out. How is this going to play out over time? Is this genuinely just going to be like whatever and then that's it? Typically not. Typically there's going to be other long-term things. So I could look at it and say, this short-term thing now, but how's it going to be over time? Oh, okay, not great, not worth it, not going to do it. So another example I can give you is how, especially in business and in sales and in communication and in teaching and in sharing information and all of these things, there's this idea of just like simplify everything. The quickest, fastest, easiest, simplest, blah, 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 blah. Make everything just quick, simple, easy, da, 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 da. But what people don't realize is that if person A starts doing that, and then person B starts doing it, person C and person D, all the way down the line, eventually what you're left with is like some ridiculous, distorted, like mutant of a thing. Like if you start dumbing something down, after enough iterations of that being dumbed down, you're left with something perverse. But people don't consider that. They're just like, no, you got to dumb it down. You got to simple down. You got to simplify. You got to make it the quickest, easiest. You got to do all these things. You got to make all these concessions. You got to change it in these ways. And it's like, yeah, I get it. You have to make adaptations. You have to meet people where they're at. You have to do all these things. But have you ever considered the long-term consequences of that mindset? Not only it's going to make you dumber and stupider and more dull and simple and all these things, but it's going to do the same to everyone else you're interacting with. It's going to do the same to the whatever industry you're in. But I don't think people have had that thought. So that's kind of why we are where we are right now, is that mindset is playing out. It's why internal arts and spirituality is a complete shit show and disaster. like like therapy, self-help, all these industries are really in a bad place, large in part because of this mindset. No, you have to soften everything, be nice, be inclusive, be equal, like make everything the same, respect everyone, include everyone, respect everything, respect all decisions, all opinions are valid, all feelings are welcomed. It's like, no, then nothing means anything anymore. Respect everyone, love everyone, then that doesn't mean anything. It's like if everyone was a billionaire, then being a billionaire would mean nothing. Because what would happen was everyone would be a billionaire, and then for like a week or two, everything would be cool. But then eventually what will happen is the cost of everything will go up and match everyone being a billionaire. So then everything will just match that scale and be just as expensive. Or nothing will mean anything at all whatsoever, and everything will lose all value, and society will completely crumble and collapse. But like these are the mindsets and the ideals that people have. Whether it's in spirituality, people say this is dumb shit, like love everyone, be nice to everyone, have compassion for everyone and everything. I'm like, well, number one, that's not what the traditions actually even taught. That's just what they say to people to placate them. And it's not even possible. And it's not something you can actually do. If you are a highly attained master, then that's your natural state. That's not something you do. That's just what you are. So you're never going to be able to do it. And trying to do it just going to make yourself a liar and a hypocrite. So why are you going to do that? So this is what I mean is so many of these iterations, so many of these places people were engaged in all these ideas, and it just is a waste of time and energy in life. Like there's so many better things people could be doing. Like, instead of all of this stuff, which I can understand if it actually worked and produced the results, fine, but it typically doesn't. So yeah, just kind of illustrating the point a bit more and just trying to say why, like, because people have said to me many times, oh, you really got to simplify things. Oh, you really got to, use this different language, be more inclusive, be more soft, be more of these things. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But like, that's just gonna make everything dumber. Because the more you assume everyone's dumb is the more everyone will be dumb. Because there's no challenge, there's no opportunity for growth. You're just meeting them and you keep lowering the bar gets lower. Because what I realized at a very young age is that if you meet someone and you're up here and they're down here, and I can ask you this too, you can look in your own life. How many times, if you're up here and they're down here, how many times have they said, you know what, I'm going to come up to your level? Rarely, if ever. I don't know that I've experienced it. What I have experienced is you're up here, I'm down here, but you're a fucking piece of shit asshole, judgmental, critical, mean, better than me, arrogant, whatever. Or on the flip side, hey, come down to my level. Oh, you're so serious. Oh, you need to lighten up. Oh, you need a girlfriend. Oh, you need to stop thinking so much. Oh, you need to whatever. All some kind of diminutive thing. That's the vast majority of the time. And that's the same idea that people put forth. So I get that that's a dynamic. I guess I just kind of be like, well, what if I just maybe try to challenge people a little bit? Because that's what actually leads to growth. Because I think I could absolutely be a lot more successful on YouTube if I just validated what people think and gave people fake nonsense. I mean, I could do it right now. I understand all this stuff works. Give people the fakest of the fake that would make them feel things, but it would just be leading them in the absolute wrong direction. So anyways, yeah, 3 days of solitary confinement can cause brain damage where you're locked down for weeks. Yeah, I definitely think the lockdowns had a extremely negative impact on society, not even just financially, but psychologically. And I don't think people are fully aware of the long-term effects of that. Like things changed, people changed, things are different. And I don't know that people really realize that. And that's another thing that I find quite bothersome is these idiots that were all like pro the lockdown and pro all of this stuff. It's like, dude, I guess the Barrington Declaration. It's like trust the science unless it disagrees with trust the science unless it's not the science that I approve of, like the Barrington Declaration, of course. Yeah, I think Sadhguru actually did have some legitimate experience of awakening or some legitimate samadhi at one point. It was just he never really did anything else after that, and it just kind of spun off into this whole other thing. Because sometimes people can have like spontaneous, legitimate self awakening or realization, which I think that's what he did years and years and years ago. But that was it, and I think it's gone. And I think it was just kind of a now it's just a whatever, a motif. So yeah. Anyways, I gotta go soon. I need to eat lunch and like actually get on with my my day and my life. I did not mean to get on here for an hour and a half. But thanks to everyone for showed up and for the good questions, for the interaction, and thanks for watching my videos for sure. I hope they are useful and helpful. And I'm gonna keep doing clickbait stuff. My content will never not be good, but the titles and tags probably going to be a little bit clickbaity. Why? Because that's what actually works and gets more views. If it didn't, then I wouldn't do it. So don't blame me. Blame society. Go change the world. Go tell people to not click. If it's a thumbnail of me or a thumbnail of a girl in a bikini, men and women click the girl in the bikini more than me, even though the video is the exact same. So I can't change that. So you go change it, and then I'll change what I do. But I'm just trying to experiment and work on different things to try to get the algorithm to start picking up my videos again and pushing them forward. Yeah, for sure. And I think honestly, there's worse things in the world than attractive females in bikinis, or like whatever weird, stupid thumbnail of me, like whatever thing that the thumbnail is. The point of the thumbnail is just to get people to click it and to show up in their feed and be like, "What's this?" and then hopefully click it. But I mean, the content will always be what it is. So, yeah, there are actual YouTubers out there who create good content and legitimate things, and they have lots of views and followers. So I know it's possible. I know you don't have to be a complete idiot, and it's not all clickbait nonsense to get popular. There's a lot of good stuff on YouTube from intelligent people putting out rational things that are good and useful. So I know it's possible. It's just a matter of kind of getting it together. And I just feel like in recent times, my mental clarity and thought process went up another notch or two. So then for me creating videos and content, I'm able to kind of like pack more in and be a little more like clear, concise, direct, organized, and coherent throughout the whole thing. Whereas if I go back to my older videos, it's a little more like fuggy, fuzzy, like trying to find the point, going around, meandering, blah, 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 blah. That's just how I'm trying to improve my cognition. Part of that is also just healing from brain injuries that I had over my life. Yeah. So you can definitely notice somewhat of a difference in progression from videos over the years, and that's just partially because getting my brain and my nervous system to actually heal and recalibrate, not still suffering from the numerous concussions and head injuries that I had throughout my previous life, which not a lot of people realize or aware of, because I don't tend to make videos telling everyone about my pre-existing injuries and health problems. I just kind of do the thing and just give people solutions and solve the problems that I have gone through, because that's ultimately all the channel is me solving my own problems and sharing it with people in a way that hopefully can help their problems. That's literally it. If people get it, it's cool. If they don't, it's fine. Previous life, as in the previous 39 years. Sorry if that was unclear. I don't mean anything profound or deep. I just mean previously in my life. You had a video about 6 healing sounds, organs, very old videos. It's still there. I have no idea. It's fine, they can be relaxing, but it's not really going to heal your organs. It's just be slightly relaxing simply because you're making a sound and emphasizing the exhale, which will relax your nervous system. That's it. 6 healing sounds is not really a thing. Montauk Chia is an absolute charlatan, and basically everything he puts out there is fake. So please stop giving him your money and participating in that nonsense. The only 3 legitimate, good internal arts teachers on the internet are Adam Meisner, Damo Mitchell, Bruce Francis. There might be some other smaller ones and random people, but in terms of main teachers with schools and online presences, those are the only 3 people that are actually legit. And they are all more legit than you possibly realize, probably. I mean, I'm assuming you're not highly skilled at internal arts, but unless you're already previously highly skilled in internal arts, these people are extremely skilled, especially Adam and Damo. Extremely skilled, like beyond what I can imagine, and I'm sure anyone watching can imagine as well. And I think that's also why people don't really like them. It's interesting. People don't really like people that are actually good. Who knew? Which is weird because I thought the point of the art was to be good at the art. So then someone's good at it and people hate them. But again, it's just people. So anyways, if there's no other questions, I'll probably wrap up the live stream here. And this was much longer than I thought it would be. So anyways, yeah, thanks again for watching. Definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, post a comment, send an email to the website, and I'll be happy to answer. Apologies if I missed anyone's questions. Sometimes things get buried in the chat, and sometimes I miss them. So yeah, thanks again for all your support. I will talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you happen to find yourself on the planet.